On this episode, we're going to give you updates on EOS, Stash, and Libra, talk about Hong Kong crypto regulations, mortgage collapse 2.0 in the US, the upcoming debate between Bitcoin Jesus and Dr. Doom, and PlanB's article and appearance on What Bitcoin Did. You're about to learn things on the dark side of the Hodl moon. Hodl moon! And we're back with another episode of Dark Side of the Hodl Moon. I'm Blockade here with Josh. Josh, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks, Cade. I hope that you're doing well in the United States. I'm back in South Korea after just being at the Rugby World Cup in Japan for the last 4 days. That was awesome.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, I just got back from the casino a few hours ago, but I'm up and bright and early, ready to go with some coffee. Still hodling like always. What have you been doing in the blockchain space lately?
Well, before Japan, which was nothing to do with blockchain, even though there is a summit right now, DEF CON's going on in Japan. I actually just left Osaka after the rugby, but at the start of the last week was, Korea Blockchain Week. So a lot of people were in town in Seoul for the festivities. I think it was quite a good conference, actually. They held it in the Intercontinental Hotel next to COEX, the Grand Paranas, I think it's called. Lots of good projects were there. And there were some great speakers, as always. The lineup was impressive. And, we had fun. I quite enjoyed it. I met a lot of interesting people. So that was cool.
Did you talk to our mutual friend, Lindsay Ju, were you on Crypto Trader?
Oh, yeah, I did talk to Lindsay. I had maybe a 5-minute interview with her talking about Salamantex and what Salamantex is doing in the crypto payment space. Let's see if it makes the cut of the show. And maybe 2 weeks before that, I was in Singapore at the Invest Asia event, which was formerly known as Consensus. And that was also pretty good. So the last month has been a pretty good one for me in terms of crypto conferences and stuff like that. And now I'm looking forward to reviewing what's been going on recently in the news.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's hop right into the news here. All right, let's talk about Hong Kong. We recently talked to my friend Manny Ramey about Hong Kong and the crypto space. It's a pretty good interview if you haven't checked it out yet. But Hong Kong has finally decided to regulate crypto funds. So I think this is both good and bad news. Before, there was really kind of the wild, wild west in Hong Kong, but I think the good news is they didn't decide to completely ban everything like China did. So this also ties into what's happening politically with China and Hong Kong right now. So it's pretty interesting to see what's happening with Hong Kong politically, but also in the crypto space.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I was having a conversation with someone who lives in Hong Kong right now. The political unrest is pretty worrying for a lot of people. And, people are planning their exits from Hong Kong. Maybe Hong Kong's trying to get more serious to keep people in the country a little bit. So maybe this looks good on paper.
Yeah. If they're going to plan their exit, how do you think they're going to exit? Are they going to exit with gold bars and Peter Schiff strategy, or are they going to exit with crypto?
Well, yeah, exactly. So I think that the crypto exit strategy is much better. A lot of people are looking into going to friendlier places. So be that Singapore or even all the way to Malta, who knows? So I think it's a pretty interesting story. I've heard that there were some bank runs. I don't know how accurate that is. Some people going to ATMs and the money's run out. So people are, trying to get cash. And it's a bit worrying when you hear the word bank run, right? So I don't know how true that is, but I think that in terms of this regulation or legislation or guidance from the government, it's obviously positive, but it's about 2 years too late. ICOs are okay with limitations. Well, the ICO boom is basically over according to the data.
So they're regulating something that doesn't really exist much anymore. Yeah, well, I think one thing too is really the freedom to do crypto stuff in Hong Kong was going to be deeply tied to Hong Kong's freedom politically. If they don't have the political freedom, they're going to ban crypto just like they did in mainland China. So, I think the two go hand in hand for me.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. We'll leave the links in the description at the end of underneath this video, so you can
Yeah,
check it out in the show
yeah,
notes.
yeah. Let's go on to the next one here. It looks like PayPal is already abandoning Facebook's Libra project amid questions about the legality of it and because it's facing scrutiny from regulators. So it looks like they've already left, and it looks like a lot of other projects are thinking about leaving or are going to leave in the near future. So we were kind of skeptical about Libra for a bunch of reasons. I think one thing we said was good about the project is they had um, big support within big industry, within PayPal and a bunch of other big companies are supporting it. I think that's kind of a catch-22. We want crypto to be decentralized and free, but we're like, wow, they've got some big backers to this project. That was one of the only good things they had going for it, and now they don't even have that.
Yeah, man. So the Libra is how we kicked off our Darkside of the Hodl podcast, and now 4 months later, it's still in the news, and it looks more uncertain than ever because I think people are waking up to what the point of cryptocurrency is in general. And when you've got a private company or a group of, large corporations together being the trusted nodes, quote unquote, then it shows there's not really much trust out there in the marketplace. Plus, then you've got the government um, oversight. They're overseeing what's happening and they're not happy. This is exactly what we predicted, that the government wouldn't like it. And again, I think it's good for the ideologically pure forms of cryptocurrency. So that obviously being Bitcoin. Um, so I think it's great that it's constantly in the news. I think it drives much of the business news. When a PayPal, a big company like that, or Facebook does anything, thousands of stories are written about it across all of the world in newspapers, and I think that's only a good thing for the purists. So I'm
Yeah.
quite happy that it's in the news. I don't think it's going to stop Facebook from pursuing this because they've already invested quite a lot of time into it. That's not to say that they're going to be stupid and do the sunk cost fallacy, but I think that it makes sense for them to keep going a little bit and then only really stop if they are forced to by the government.
Yeah, I think they're going for it, and yeah, if they're not stopped, no one's going to stop them, and they're just going to see if it gains traction or not. So yeah, let's move on to the next topic. This is probably one of the most interesting ones of the latest stories I want to talk about today. So, breaking Bitcoin mortgage meltdown. So this story is a little U.S. centric, but I think we all know, kind of as the U.S. economy goes, so goes the world. And basically, the housing bubble, a lot of people, I think including Peter Schiff and Ron Paul and others, have said there's still an issue with the housing market and the mortgage market in the US. And this article goes on to say that we're either in the start or the middle of a full blown mortgage crisis. And there's millions of loans that have been modified. So over 3 million at least, and there's as far as 17 million that there's questions about. And what it's saying is that they would be defaulting, but they're renegotiating or changing the terms of the loan and rolling the interest back into the loan. So not giving them a better deal, they're just delaying the defaults. And they're
Mm.
saying there is going to be no Bitcoin 2.0. This is it's not getting any better. It's just kind of saying that there's already 819 billion worth of outstanding subprime loans, and they're still here. So it's going to happen, and if this happens, it could signal a breaking Bitcoin moment. But there's not going to be a Satoshi Nakamoto 2.0 to intervene if this happens. So um, maybe the lessons we learned from the mortgage bailout number one were just never learned.
Well, I doubt that there would be a second mortgage bailout. I don't think that the United States government would essentially privatize the profits, socialize the losses like they did in the first one. That was the too big to fail moment. Now, I think that it's interesting the use of language, that they haven't used the word default, but they're just calling it a renegotiation of an agreement. And I think that that's smart, honestly, because you don't want to start a panic effect in the markets that could actually be negative. That's not what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think the term they use is they modified the loan. It's modified.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with each modification, like it says in the article, then the risk of actual default does rise. So let's see what happens. We can't predict the future. I think, though, if we were to make a guess, this is quite good for Bitcoin again, because it's one of those, like, it's something that you can rely on as a store of value. When the dollar starts to get shaky, then the Bitcoin price goes up. So a lot of people might start looking at those places to put their money, and Bitcoin's just going to be right there in the next few years. So if there's a problem in the US economy, you can imagine more people getting into Bitcoin to try and hedge against that. So I think it's a perfect storm with the halving coming up next year as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what happens.
Yeah, only time will tell. But I've been looking at purchasing some more real estate, and I think I'm gonna wait because I think there is gonna be maybe not a full blown collapse, but I definitely think prices are gonna go down substantially in the next year or two. All
Yeah, I
right,
think so.
cool.
I think it's going to happen everywhere, really, because the house prices are just way too high compared with average earnings for most people. I mean, if you look at what people are actually taking home, and then you look at the average house prices, compared with their annual salaries, it doesn't really make sense in a lot of places. I'm not saying that that's true in the United States, but it's definitely true in much of Asia and the UK. I think that some of the house prices in North America are unbelievable, to be honest. Some really good deals that you can have on huge properties and stuff, whereas you just get like a small box in the sky in parts of Asia for that. So at
Yeah,
least you get land.
nice, nice. Yeah, let's. You want to move on to the next one? Let's talk a little about EOS.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is about a month old, but EOS has been doing a lot of stuff with their blockchain, but they haven't really seen a lot of price action and movement in that way. So they had a hard fork about a month ago, version 1.8 on their EOS mainnet, and they're releasing their new Voice, which is going to be a new social media platform. It's going to merge blockchain technology with social media, and that hasn't really seen a whole lot of traction. They still have, the guy behind EOS was also responsible for Steemit, and Steemit's still plugging along too. But they also have a trading platform where EOS holders can earn interest for lending their EOS coins at an annualized interest rate of 6%. So that's kind of cool. They're kind of doing it in house instead of using some other, I guess, company that gives you interest for staking your coins. But really, we haven't seen much price movement. But I think it's interesting that EOS is still building stuff, and they're one of the few blockchains I think that's actually working on things still. So I think,
Yeah. Well, they've got so much money that working on things is pretty broad. You could say that we're working on things, but it's interesting that they've not really reached any kind of mass awareness. If you talk, can you remember our interview with John Tabatabai? He was like, "Look, we're not interested in competing native blockchain, and he mentioned EOS. He said, I don't want to hate on EOS, but they raise billions of dollars and no one's really talking about it. And they're actually paying people to develop on it. They're paying people to talk about EOS. I mean, there's a show that is pretty good, to be fair. Nice production. It's called Everything EOS, and it's a YouTube channel, and it's run by some EOS developers, but they're obviously heavily sponsored by the EOS guys to promote it, and there's still not a lot of appetite for people to actually build on top of EOS. So I guess people are still thinking that Bitcoin is the store of value, and that Ethereum is the DApp Ethereum virtual machine blockchain. But apart from that, no one seems to be interested in EOS. That's why the price is really constant, despite the good news. You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
well,
big news.
I'm a little biased because I'm an EOS bag holder, but yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of. I think I'm surprised that there's not more dApp development on really all the blockchains, whether it's EOS or Ethereum or Cardano or any of the other major ones. Just like I'd love to see more building and development on all of them, but I think with this bear market and kind of crypto was so trendy for a while, and the price goes down and everyone kind of abandons their projects and doesn't have the money to build with their companies. A lot of companies going bankrupt or pump and dump, selling all the coins and just exiting with a stack of cash. But yeah, I'd love to see more
Yeah,
building on all of them. But at
yeah,
least,
I definitely would as a fan of all cryptocurrency projects that are legit. I think EOS has a few questions behind it, like why did you need to raise so much money to do what you wanted to do? But
yeah,
aside from, like, they did raise over $1 billion. I think it was nearly 2 billion. I can't remember the exact amount, 1.5 billion or something.
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
no one's
pretty hard.
forcing investors to give them money though. So, but yeah, it was a
Yeah,
crazy
they
amount
took
of money.
advantage of an amazing time, and I think fair enough. Like that time where you could just name any price, and people would be like, "Still going to 10x, even if you raise $1 billion." You can, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, it did. I think that story is pretty much done, but it's interesting, and let's see
Yeah,
what happens in terms of
yeah.
dApp development. Maybe we should reach out to the Everything EOS guys. They'd be happy to come on our show. Maybe we
Yeah.
should go on their show. That'd be interesting to
All
talk about
right.
that a bit more.
All right. Well, one more question before we move on. Obviously, they raised a crazy amount of money, but I mean, what else would you want to see them do? Would you want to see them spend more money on development or?
I don't even know what they can do really. They've tried. They've hired some of the best people in the business. They've incentivized people to build on top of their decentralized platform. They've got great courses out there, great documentation. They're trying to do things in what you could say is the legit way, but maybe they just need a little bit more mainstream awareness so that some of the developers can think, oh, okay, I can actually have a career developing EOS apps on top of the EOS blockchain. Like if we could build EOS dApps, there needs to be some kind of market incentive for everything, though. Where if you're just spending your raise money on forcing people to use your blockchain, it needs to be superior in some way. And if people don't
Mhm.
know why it's superior, honestly, I couldn't tell you what's superior about EOS off the top of my head. Could you?
Um, I would say last time I checked, they were a lot faster than Ethereum. I think a lot of blockchains are faster than Ethereum, but I think
Yeah.
it was the speed thing that was the huge thing. I think that's why Dan Larimer said he originally created EOS because he thought Ethereum was too slow. So if they can keep that speed and keep it secure and get people to build on it, I think they've got a viable contender to Ethereum. But yeah, only time will tell. Should we move on now?
Hell yeah, yeah. Let's move on to the
All right,
next one.
yeah. So let's talk about Dash. We haven't really talked much about Dash on the show, but as you know, I'm a big fan of cryptocurrency, and they're top 20 in market cap, and they've picked up some steam recently. They're on some exchanges all over the world now, some extra ones in Mexico, Brazil, Switzerland, and they are, I think they're on Coinbase Pro in the US, and they're seeing more liquidity and arbitrage helps with price stabilization, not just for Dash, but for any pairing. That's what Taylor said, and he's with Dash, and that's obviously economically valuable for exchanges. So I think it's good to see, a couple big cryptocurrencies. They're still trying to use crypto as money, which isn't as hot right now. And I think when you see all these industry players coming into the space, it's like that's why I first got into it because I love the idea of cryptocurrency, whether it's Dash or Bitcoin Cash or something else. And I'm hot on the project. I think we're going to have some of the Dash people on for a future episode. I'm kind of curious what you think about Dash and their momentum, and also was there a lot of talk about crypto as currency at the most recent events you were at?
I think we'll start in reverse order. In terms of crypto as currency, that is, I think, the next level that we have to get through in terms of adoption. People seeing it as something you could use in the real economy and not just for speculation only. Obviously, that's what Salamantix is trying to help do. But now, returning to the first part of that about Dash, well, Dash it's had this recent unfortunate series of events where they've been delisted on many platforms because platforms, aka exchanges, are kind of trying to get their ducks in a row to make sure that they're not having any privacy coins or coins that can facilitate anonymous transactions on there. I think that it's quite surprising that Coinbase Pro bucked that trend, but maybe they're confident that Dash has got all of the necessary, legal structuring and paperwork to satisfy whoever might come in and have a look. I know that the Dash guys in Europe, they are very, very pro using Dash as cash, and that's what they think it should be used as. And I can't really speak more on this apart from to say that I think that the Dash project it's a cool one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else you're going to use Dash for besides cash. I mean, that's their one, I think their only use case. But yeah, I think it's exciting. But yeah, it is frustrating with the whole having Dash delisted because that's the whole idea of digital cash. It's supposed to be private, fungible, tradable, divisible, immutable, all those things. That's what it's supposed to be. So that's a whole nother issue with getting governments to allow privacy, allow private transactions with digital cryptocurrency the same way you do with fiat cash. So I think that's the whole issue with governments that adopt these things and allow crypto to be used are going to see growth, and countries that try and ban it are going to see their economy shrink. I think in the long term.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting though, the price going down quite significantly from the news that it's going to get delisted. So people feel like, oh, there's it's going to be more of this. But it's nice to see that the big exchange Coinbase actually bucking that trend, and then some countries like Switzerland, which are definitely pro cryptocurrency with the Crypto Valley, and then you've got the Mexicans and the Brazilians. They're also saying no, Dash is welcome here, which is great.
Yeah, and they're definitely using Dash and Bitcoin Cash in Venezuela. It's one place where it actually is needed. So it's good to see it and fill in that market need. All right, let's move on to the next one. I'm a big fan of debates. We talked about the Pomp Peter Schiff debate, and Roger Ver, aka Bitcoin Jesus, is debating with Dr. Doom, Super No Coiner Nuriel Rabini in a couple weeks, and I'm excited about the debate. I always like to watch debates, and maybe we can do a reaction show. I know some people have issues with Roger because of the BTC BCH split, but he's always been a proponent of cryptocurrency, and I think every time he debates, he does a good job of giving the pro crypto perspective. So I'm excited to see it, and I don't know much about the other guy, but I'm excited to see what kind of fight he puts up.
Well, I think he's going to put up quite a good fight because he's practiced, quite extensively at this right now. But I honestly think Roger Ver is going to win that debate. He's already started the Twitter war, or rekindled those flames, I should say. It's pretty funny. He just recently tweeted about, what Dr. Doom wrote in 2013, and he's saying that gold is better than Bitcoin, and that it traded below $58, and it's rubbish, and it's dropped 40%. And 5 years later, at 30,000% opportunity cost, he's just saying that crypto is a scam and it's a joke. Whereas, in fact, if he would have just, I think maybe he's annoyed that he's a no coiner,
Yeah.
But once you've made your bed, some people feel like they've got to lie in it. It might be better if he just says, "Look, I'm wrong about Bitcoin itself." But he is true about some of the dark side of the Hodl Moon stuff. There are scammers out there, so But there are scammers in every industry. That's not because it's Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. There's nothing that you can scam on the Bitcoin network. It's
Hmm.
it's a secure network.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Let's I got one more thing I want to talk about today. Plan B was on What Bitcoin Did, and I think Plan B is a good person to follow on Twitter. And it's a good listen. We'll link it in the show notes along with all of our other notes today. And it was pretty interesting. We learned no, he's kind of pseudo anonymous. We know he's in the I believe the Dutch financial space. He works at a big financial institution, and he kind of multi-billion-dollar balance sheet, I believe, is what he said in the podcast. And he kind of wants to be a bridge between the crypto and traditional finance and banking. And he's got a famous stock to flow article that was just published on Medium. And he said a lot of really good, interesting things in the podcast. Um, Not only just economic things, but he also said that cryptocurrency or maybe Bitcoin in general, it was on the weapons list in the US for a while as like a dangerous weapon. So if it's on the U.S. weapons list, you know it's going to be a game changer. And I thought it was pretty interesting. And he wants to remain pseudo anonymous because I think he has to with where he works. And also, I think when someone's pseudo anonymous, it maybe helps their case more because you don't have no one can dig through their past and analyze every little thing they've done or said. So I thought it was a good listen, and I think the article is a must read if you haven't read it before.
Yeah, I think that it's a really good article. Obviously, he's a very intelligent person. You could tell by the way that he writes; it's completely clear, and you just leave with a feeling of wow, he's got a really strong point, and he wrote this quite some time ago now. It wasn't written recently. It's not really kind of cryptocurrently, but it's relevant to him being on What Bitcoin Did podcast. I'd recommend everyone read it, and essentially what it means is that if he's correct that we're going to see the continued rise in the price of Bitcoin, it's going to continue to go up, and it's going to be a huge market cap not too far away from now, which is great for all of us enthusiasts.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's been a few months now since that article came out, but yeah, I think he's a good person in the space and bridging the gap between crypto and traditional finance and banking. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it, but eventually, if we ever want to see things work and get the laws loosened up a little bit, we're gonna need people like this in the space.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really interesting that basically he is predicting around 55K in May of next year, which is epic. So, get your Hodl on, lads, right now. Get them move bags full.
Hodl or die, boys.
Well, exactly. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next, it's going to be 7, 8 months from now. I'm definitely feeling bullish. There's like a storm brewing. This is despite, though, good levels of employment in the United States. So I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I think it's the lowest rate of unemployment in the United States for a very long time, 3.5%. It was released
Yeah, it's
recently.
funny. Now there's a big issue in the U.S. about minimum wage, and literally in the area that I live in, um, the base wage is probably 14 or 15 an hour just to work as a clerk at a gas station or something. They literally no one here, even someone who's 16 years old, is working for minimum wage because the economy is so good. Like the classified ads are stocked with job availability. So it's
Mm.
like if the economy is going well, the minimum wage isn't an issue. I don't know a single person in the state of Rhode Island working for minimum wage right now. I think it's everyone's making over $10 an hour easy. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, when the economy is good, everyone wins.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't think it has to crash for Bitcoin to keep on going up. You know, it doesn't correlate to that necessarily, but it's nice to have. It's definitely nice to have in your, your hedging against such an event bag.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm all out of things to say. Josh, do you
Yeah,
have
that was
anything else you want to talk about today?
no, it was just a short and sweet one this week. Actually, we're going to start doing the cryptocurrently more regularly, but make it shorter like this so you can get your updates and do your 25-minute to 40-minute listen and get on with the rest of your day.
Yeah, I like that. All right. All right, listeners. Listen, learn, and hodl your moon bags to the dark side of the
Of the
hodl
Hodl.
moon.
Hodl Moon!